Card scrapers are awesome tools for prepping wood for finish among other tasks, but they have to be sharp. Card scrapers are simply a thin piece of metal that you sharpened and put a tiny hook onto, and then you can scrape your wood or finish or a variety of other tasks. They're especially useful for prepping wood for finish, removing mill marks or cleaning up that last little bit of tear out. And I use them for all kind of little tasks around my shop, from cleaning glue to prepping wood, etc. They are just really useful, but they have to be sharp in order to work. So today I'm going to go through how I sharpen my card scrapers and get them ready for use. Now, some card scrapers come ready to use out of the box, so go ahead and check if yours is already tuned up, then you can just get to work. Or go ahead and try it on a piece of wood and see if it's working well for you. But at some point they're going to dull, or they might come dull, so you've got to tune them up. You got to tune them and sharpen them, get them ready to go. What we're going to do is create a tiny hook right along the edge. So the scraper here, we're going to create a tiny hook right along this edge where the very edge meets the face. Create a little tiny hook, and that hook is what does the cutting. So here's a close-up view, highly magnified, of course, of what that edge looks like. You can see the face, and we're going to pull a little piece of metal out from the face and turn it. So we're creating a tiny hook right at along where the face meets that edge, and that's the hook that does the cutting. So let's go ahead and get started on the process of how we create that hook. Now, the steps we're going to do to create that hook first include cleaning up the edge. We want this edge to be very straight all the way across. You might have, it's dull, you might have nicked it, it might be a little bit wavy. So first thing we're going to do is straighten that edge with a file. We'll use a file to straighten that edge. Then what we want to do is create a perfect 90 between the face and that edge, or very close to 90. We want to speed up the process. We want a nice smooth edge from the face across this edge here. Where those two planes meet, we want a super smooth corner. So the way we're going to do that is pull out some water stones and clean up the face and edge just like we would do a chisel. Once we've got that, we want to pull a little piece of metal over the edge and create the hook. And we do that using a burnishing tool. And this tool is a little bit harder than the card scraper, and so it's going to pull out a piece of metal and create the hook using this burnisher. So let's go ahead and go through those steps. Now, like I said, the first thing we want to do is flatten and straighten this edge. Now, of course, we can do this edge and even the ends. I'm just going to do one of the edges here all the way, start to finish. But remember that you can do all four of the edges, and then with the intersection of each face, there's actually 8 cutting sides that you can work on for your card scraper. Now, I've got a block of wood here that I'm going to put my file into, and I've created a small groove that holds the file 90 to this block of wood. Now, you can do this freehand, but this just speeds up the process for me. And I put the block of wood in my vise, and I can now hold the card scraper right against the block of wood and know that I'm 90 to my file, and just go ahead and start running it down the file. Now, I'll do this as many passes as it takes, filing away the card scraper until I get a nice smooth cut all the way from start to finish. You can examine that edge, and when it starts to show shine all the way across from start to end, then you're done. You can use a marker at any step, at any of these steps in the process. You can put a little marker along the edge, and when it wears away, then you know you're done, and that's a really great tip for the first few times that you're doing this. Now, some people skip this next step, but I like to polish the edge and the face where those meet to get a nice crisp edge, just like you would do on a chisel or plane iron. I've got here a 4,000 grit stone. You can use anything 1,000 to 4,000, something in there. And I've got the same block of wood that has 90-degree reference edges. So I'll lay my block of wood here on the stone and go ahead and start polishing the edge, that same edge we were just working on the file, to really get a nice polished edge. Just rub it back and forth, making sure to move around your stone quite a bit. You definitely don't want to create a groove in your water stone or oil stone or sandpaper, whatever you're using. So back and forth, moving it around, and then go ahead and inspect that edge. And again, you're looking for getting more of a polish right along that edge now. So I'm getting pretty close. Give it a little bit more. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. Yeah. And now I'm going to go ahead and start working on the face to polish right along the face, right where it meets that edge. So to do that, I could do the whole thing, but of course that would create a nice 90-degree edge, but I've got a lot of metal to polish there. So instead I'm going to do what's called a ruler trick and lift the other end of the scraper just a little bit. I've got a strip, this is about 1/1000 or 2 thick. Lay that up, so now I'm really concentrating all my effort right along that, right along the edge, right where it meets the face, right where it meets the edge. So go ahead and put some even pressure and just swirl it around, trying to get it all across the middle, ends, just polishing right where that's meeting. Hopefully you can see there, really starting to polish just along the front there. Wow, it's looking pretty good. Not feeling any burr anymore, so now I've got a nice corner right where those two are meeting. So you can see that really didn't take long at all. In fact, it took me longer to pull out my supplies than it did to tune this up to this point. So that speaks to having a dedicated sharpening station. So now I have a really great polished edge and face, and right where they meet is a nice crisp 90-degree or very close to 90-degree corner. Now it's time to create that hook. Now I'm going to go ahead and create that hook using the burnishing tool. This is a two-step process. The first step involves bringing out a little bit of metal out from the face, out over the edge. Then we're going to turn that into a hook up over the face. So the first thing I want to do is apply a little bit of oil to my burnishing tool and to my card scraper. Go ahead and lubricate it so that it's nice and smooth for doing this process. And the first thing I want to do is apply a good amount of pressure straight down right over that edge all the way along to try to pull out a little bit of metal out from the face out over the edge. And I'll do about, I don't know, 5 or 6 strokes. Good amount of downward pressure. Okay, flip it over onto the other side. And this is with the burnishing tool right parallel to the face. Next, what I want to do is bring it out over the edge and do this about 90, but I want to tip the burnishing tool just a little bit. And I'm going to start with about 5 degrees or so. You can go more or less. You can try out different angles, but I find 5 is a good amount to start with. Now here I'm not using very much pressure at all. And I'll do just 3 or 4 strokes, light pressure. And I'll go ahead and feel. And just when you can feel a burr, you're done. You definitely don't want very much of a burr at all. Just barely feeling it. Light pressure, just kind of keeping it against there. Yeah, there it is. Just a tiny bit of a burr. And now we're ready to go. Now you can push or pull a card scraper. Here I'm going to go ahead and push, which is bending it a little bit. Put my thumbs at the back, fingers in the front, and just flex it a little bit and push and create these nice shavings. Now pulling it, you would put all your fingers like this on the back, flex it just a little bit and pull it towards you. And that's great for leveling or cleaning up a bigger surface. Pushing, I find, is great for getting into tight areas and really cleaning them out. So these are nice shavings coming right off this tuned up card scraper. Now if I go show you the other side, which I didn't tune up, and try to push that, it's got a nice, I did make a nice edge to it, but you can see it's a lot more dusty, a lot more dust in there. Not so much shaving. You can see right there along the edge a lot of dust clinging to there, and a lot of, that's mostly just dust coming off of there. So again, flipping over to the tuned up side. Now you can see more shavings coming off of there. So that is a nicely tuned up card scraper. You saw the shavings coming right off that edge. I use these card scrapers for all kind of things in the shop, especially cleaning up glue lines. When you got to pop that glue off, you can go right along the glue line and really clean that up. prepping all kind of tear out. I have tear out in certain areas around knots or reversing grain. Card scrapers are just awesome for going in there and just cleaning up those little areas where you just have a little bit of tear out. And of course you can prep wood, any type, for finishing with these. You can also use them on finished wood. So once you lay down a finish, instead of using sandpaper, you can go ahead and grab a card scraper and really just level that finish and get ready to apply the next coat. So it can be great for that as well. Here's a piece that has some mill marks from a planer jointer, I'm not really sure. So I'm going to use a card scraper and let's go ahead and clean that up. Now the card scraper can leave some nice shavings coming off of there. Now the card scraper can leave a little bit of a fuzzy top, so I like to go ahead and grab 300 or 400 paper. Just clean up that little bit of fuzz, and there we go. Now, when you feel that your scraper is getting dull, you don't have to go through the whole process, even though you saw just how fast it was to tune this up. All you need to do when it gets a little bit dull is just grab your burnishing tool and reestablish the hook right on the edge. Now, after you do that a few times, the edge might be wavy enough or dull enough that you do have to go back and file it straight and flat again. But you can definitely get away with just using the burnishing tool quite a few times until it gets dull enough that you've got to go through the whole process again. Now scrapers can come in a variety of shapes. I just showed you a pretty typical rectangular one, but you've got curved shapes. Here's a couple of different curved profiles. And these you sharpen pretty much exactly the same. All these outside corners can be sharpened exact same method we used. You just have to kind of go around that corner. So when you're on your file, you know, you're kind of moving it around the file to get it nice and flat all the way along. And then when you're on the Waterstone, same thing. And then the face, you know, same thing, kind of moving it around to get nice polished surface, nice polished face, nice polished edge. Now the inside corners are a bit trickier. Typically you'll use slipstones that fit in there. Obviously you can't be getting that on the Waterstone for really polishing that edge. So you use a fine slipstone for getting in there to polish those inside corners. So that's how fast and easy it is to tune up a card scraper. And I use them for all kind of things in my shop. And once you use a well-tuned card scraper, you can't imagine working without them.